Hi, my name is Keely and this is my testimony. Where do I start? We'll start off when I was a child. Was taken to church a handful of times. I always had God in the background. Also introduced to sexual things that kids should not be introduced to from neighbors, from classmates. I feel like that happens a lot in our society, and my parents had no idea I was exposed to these things. I'm sure they don't know half the things that happened. That's okay. Pretty apparent that the enemy was after me at a young age. And I also dealt with fear. Fear was instilled in me pretty crazy, like, because I would be, riding a bike and let's say I fell and I, got a cut or I got hurt. No, you're gonna have to get your arm amputated, and I think he was joking as an adult, but as a kid I internalized that and I thought that I actually was going to have to get my arm amputated when that was not at all what was going to happen. The way that my brain was wired at that point was just fear of everything. So one story my cousin remembers, she brings it up from time to time. We were at a family friend's house and there was gum on the table. And we both had a piece of gum. Chewing on it, I was like, this doesn't taste like gum. This is weird. I started panicking, freaking out. I went and found my mom. Said, we had some of this gum that was on the table. We should have asked before we did it. I don't know what it is. So she went and found out that it was nicotine gum that we were chewing on. Yeah, I was probably, I don't know, like 8 years old, maybe younger. I'm not sure. When she told me nicotine, I didn't know what that word was. I didn't know what that meant. I thought I was gonna die. I clearly knew it wasn't what I thought it was. I started freaking out, and then I'm sure my cousin was just like, big deal, whatever. I can laugh at it now as an adult, but as a kid I was genuinely fearful all the time. I was just afraid of death. Death was something that just always made me uncomfortable, and I feel like more scared than the average person, average kid, average teenager, average adult. I never quite understood that until I realized how I was brought up, and then it made more sense to me. But then I was left with, after understanding why I was the way I was kind of left with, well, what do I do now? How do I fix this? I was just always just left wanting more and just needing fulfillment from something. And I was very open-minded. Really dived into anything specifically too deep. I kind of dabbled in some things, so like I had some rocks at one point. I kind of looked at zodiac signs, all that stuff, but I just never got too crazy. It didn't really do anything for me. It didn't fix anything, didn't make me feel any better, and if it did, it was very short-lived. I was just still left with that emptiness that I feel like a lot of people have. And so they find it in other things, whether that's sex or drugs or whatever. Fast forward to teenage years. The sexual immorality I was kind of doing was just wrong, obviously. It led me to having boyfriends that were 3 years older than me when I was like 15. Just not doing the right things as a teenager. And once again, still very fearful, tons of anxiety. Fast forward up into, my young adult life, probably about, I'm gonna say like 3-4 years ago. Lots of sexual immorality. Once again, that was something that was just an issue. I was still very open-minded. I was just searching for things, anything, absolutely anything. And until 3 years ago, I was newly single. I was just on Tinder and I was just being very worldly. I had joined OnlyFans, doing that left me very unfulfilled. Came across this one man who I'm now married to. He changed everything for me. We started reading the Bible on Sundays, every Sunday. And I was kind of starting to read the Bible before then, but I didn't really dive into it until I had him around. The timing was impeccable. Only timing I feel like our Heavenly Father could do. And it's just beautiful to look back on. I really started to kind of dive in deep, and and really learn and get the knowledge. We both have grown on this journey together at the same time, which is just insane to think about. I was very stubborn at first. I wouldn't go to churches. He kind of wanted to go to a church, but I was like, no, I don't want to be judged. I don't want them to ask why I wasn't there last Sunday or judge me for what I'm wearing. So I was like, I don't even need that. Glad that I got over that part and I ended up going to church. It's been wonderful. I've gotten to know people. I've had convictions about my pride and my judgmental attitude. It's really been so special. And once I finally found Jesus and I've given everything, started following him, it's just been so different from the way that I act, from the way that I want to live, and the desires I once desired, those have changed. And that's the beautiful thing, is that you really do change, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time. For some people it might be overnight. I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me, you know, it's been kind of a slow process, but it's been beautiful. I'm not saying I don't deal with fear from time to time. I do, but I don't deal with it alone. And it's not nearly as bad as it once was. And I finally have that void, you know, it's not missing anymore. You know, the love that he brings, the peace that he brings, it truly does surpass all understanding. And it's just beautiful. And I'd be lying if I said that this testimony was not difficult to record and that I hadn't recorded it 5 different times. For me personally, I just feel that my testimony is insignificant compared to a lot of them. That's a lie, because it is. And I'm sure there's people who are going through things that I've went through, or maybe had gone through them, or maybe will go through them. I just want to encourage you that if you're kind of on the fence of making a testimony, definitely do it, because you don't know who you could be helping. It's just the most powerful thing that you have. People can argue the Bible all day long with you, but they can't argue your testimony because it's yours. You know, you can't change anyone. Only God can. All you can do is plant those seeds. So, yeah. I love you guys, but Jesus loves you more.